Now, the battle over the Kogi and Bayelsa states governorship elections is far from over. The governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, in Kogi State, Murtala Ajaka, has rejected the verdict of the State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal, which dismissed his petition against Governor Usman Odudu for lack of merit. Ajaka, who described the verdict as a temporary setback and the beginning of a long road to freedom, vowed to pursue the case to the Supreme Court. And this is coming despite Governor Odudu's appeal to opponents to join him in moving the state forward. Also in Bayelsa State, the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Timipre Silva, rejected the tribunal's verdict, which dismissed his petition against Governor Doye Diri. BKO, let me bring your thoughts on this. Welcome back, although this is my first time of having you here after the week-long break. So with this situation in Kogi and Bayelsa states, what do you make of the unfolding developments, even as the two parties have rejected the results of the courts, or the verdicts of the courts?
Yeah, I expected it. At this stage, you do not expect Ajaka, who has gone to court, has gone to the tribunal to present and validate his position that there was so much overvoting in the election. You do not expect that after losing at the State Election Petitions Tribunal, you will simply give up. And we saw trends after the general election of 2023. The tribunals began to sit in the states. In some cases, you win at the state tribunal, you lose at appeal. In some cases, you win at state tribunal. I mean, in some cases, you lose at state tribunal, lose at the appeals tribunal, and then win at the Supreme Court. We saw what happened with Kano, for example. Many of us had given up that Kano case was
long and forgotten.
Yes, because how do you prove, for example, that ballots that were not stamped were valid? It is the stamp on those ballots that validate them. And when they deducted, when the lower tribunal deducted those ballots that were not stamped, APC overtook NNPP. The trend continued at the appeals tribunal. But at the level of Supreme Court, the Supreme Court ruled that Abba Kabir Yusuf was the winner of the election, in spite of the fact that a good number of those votes were not stamped, So before Ajaka can be expected to accept defeat, it must be after the Supreme Court has ruled. There are even many that the Supreme Court will rule, they will say, okay, this is the judgment of human beings. There is a judgment in heaven that they are waiting for that one. We see these things happen. So for me, I'm not surprised. The same thing with Silva. You don't expect them to, at this stage, say, oh, they accept. It's not everyone who accepts defeat easily. In the case of Dino Melai, for example, he said he would not even have anything to do with tribunals. So he gave up very early. Instead of spending money, he said, no, I'm not going to try to contest this the verdict of this election at the tribunal. He stuck to his gun. That's what he's doing. He has his own reason. Not that he felt the election was perfect. We've not reached that point when we can do elections and Nigeria will say, yes, we can hold up this election as a perfect one. No, we've not reached that point. So our elections will continue to show all of those telltale signs of imperfection, of vote rigging, and the rest. Now it is for you to prove to the judges that the elections were conducted in grave violation of the 2022 Electoral Act. If the judges are convinced that the election was conducted in substantial non-compliance with the Electoral Act 2022, then the judges can then decide that, okay, we're ordering a fresh election, especially in the areas concerned. But as I said, it's up to those judges to say, okay, this is our verdict. Justice Ado Kudu is convinced that Ajaka did not win the election, that Ododo was the rightful winner of the election, that Ododo was properly elected and declared winner of that election. That's the way it is for now. Nobody knows what will happen at the level of the appeals tribunal. Nobody knows what will happen at the Supreme Court. So, for me, I do not see anything wrong in what Ajaka has done. He's giving himself another chance. Every politician is by nature very optimistic. So he's thinking that, okay, maybe when I get to the appeals tribunal, I may get a different verdict. The Supreme Court is still there. As long as all of those channels for redress have not been exhausted, I believe that neither Silva nor Ajaka would say, okay, we give up at this time, we are prepared to work with you. Ododo saying that they should come and work for him at this stage, these ones won't listen. They want to exhaust all the avenues for redress. It is after that, I think, that they can then say, okay, let's see what happens. They are from the same party. They are brothers, the same state. So the possibility of coming together is there. Never rule anything out with politicians. They can still find a way to come together and work
as a team.
As a team, because Ajaka was an ESCO member, was in the NWC of APC. No one can say at this stage that he cannot come back to his party. So, but I believe that it's premature to expect that having lost the first phase, that he will simply give up and say, okay, no. And he has said it that this is just a temporary setback. Whether
to freedom,
the setback will be sustained at the appeals tribunal or the Supreme Court, only time will tell. But for now, Ododo is basking in victory. As you can see, his supporters are extremely happy. I saw the large crowd, and this is the way we roll in Nigerian politics.
Indeed, the way we roll in Nigerian politics. Olabisi, looking at this issue, I think we discussed this matter yesterday with Paul Dada and GKB, and they were of the opinion that, he who alleges, according to the courts, must prove. So if you didn't get your facts right in the beginning, why are you hopeful for anything that might come out of it? Although BK who has said, he has opportunity to exhaust all avenues until he gets, until he's satisfied. Do you think perhaps these petitioners, they haven't done their homeworks very well? Whenever they come to courts, they're looking for redress. Do you think they need to do so much more in terms of, ensure that all their cases or all that they want to talk about or what they want the courts to, to look into should be, the onus lies on them generally?
Yeah, it does. The onus lies on them generally. However, the verdict of the court is beyond them. Because you can think that you have a strong case, but the court is not going to look at your case in isolation. It's going to look at things comprehensively. So even when you have your own case, it depends on how overwhelming that case is that will determine how the judgment will go. For example, in the case of the Kogi State now, he even accepted that the court accepted that there were levels of overvoting in certain areas. However, that acceptance wasn't enough for the court to nullify the election of the governor. So, in as much as it is expected of the petitioner to have enough facts and evidence to prove their case, because the onus really is on them to prove that whatever they are saying, the court should agree with them. The court reserves the right based on its own perception of the overall situation to give a verdict. And that is what will continue to happen. So yours is to come to court, present your case. It is for the court to issue a verdict. Yes, as BKO said, it is possible that the lower court may ignore some facts. And if you go to the appeal court, those facts could be considered by the judges at that level. And it is also possible that it could be the Supreme Court that will look at the overall evidence and say, oh, this is the judgment.
Right.
But the most important thing is that he who alleges
must prove.
Must prove.
All right, before we continue with this conversation, I want to quickly bring to your attention that we are going for a live broadcast in Akwa Ibom State, but Journalists Hangout continues on our other platforms for our audience in UK and also for our Nigerian audience. You can also watch the program on YouTube and our other platforms as well. So let's quickly move on to our next issue of discussion. Now, an age-long adage says, verify before you vilify. But this was not the case with the Deputy Governor of Kano State, Aminu Abdussalam, who retracted his allegation accusing the National Security Advisor, NSA, Nuhu Ribadu, of interfering in the Kano emirate tussle. Abdussalam, who acknowledged that he was misled to believe that the NSA was involved in the turnout of events in Kano, apologized for the embarrassment and damages his statement had caused Ribadu. BKO, with this development, were you surprised? Because when it first broke out, everyone was wondering why such allegations, and now he has apologized. Is it enough?
Yeah, but he was given a time ceiling within which to apologize, or there will be consequences. And despite the fact that he has immunity, he has done the right thing, because you are not going to be in power forever. The person that you have maligned, once you have exhausted your immunity, your time of immunity is gone, they can press charges against you. I mean, it is, people get away with all kinds of things. People get away with all kinds of things. Some lie against people. I'm a victim of people just simply lying against me, assuming that this is my position on a matter. And they will curse you, they will say all kinds of things. People who ordinarily, they are not good enough to lace your boot, come and abuse you and then go. So how can a deputy governor is talking now, he's saying that they were misled by intelligence. Which intelligence? If you cannot hold a man like this, you can't go to town and accuse him
Publicly.
Of doing something. And the spoken word is like an arrow. Once you shoot it, you can't bring it back to its original place. You've already shown it's gone. It's gone. So the NSA felt bad about what was said about him, and he decided that he will pursue the case to a logical conclusion. And the deputy governor had to simply come out to say, no, we were misled. I take back what I said. I think that's fine. And I think that the NSA will be sufficiently placated, because the apology has been given substantial, what's it called, attention by the newspapers. So hopefully he learns from this. in the thick of things, people are unable to keep their emotions in check. They run their mouths and they land in trouble. It's a big thing in our country. And you see then they will turn back and lie against the press. That was misquoted. The press continues to suffer in the hands of people who cannot button up their mouths. The press, that was not what I said. I was taken out of context. When you were saying it, you didn't imagine that it would have some repercussions. But it's convenient for you to blame it on the press. That is what we suffer from these politicians.
But isn't there a way that this can be prevented? For instance, a law, that could protect the press from situations like this?
No, we the press too are guilty of all kinds of failings. We too will lie against people now. Some of us will report things without filtration. It's even a big problem now because everybody sees himself as a journalist. People without training, they are wearing suits. You see them in TV studios. They are now like the lords of our trade. Without training. So those of us who went through training, who suffered, you go and bring story, your editor will look at the story and tear it, humiliate you before that. Those of us who got training, we are fools, Abi. People don't want to go through any training, but they want to be like the King Kongs of our profession. That's what is happening. That's why they have baked journalists all over the place, unreading journalists. People are too lazy to read, too lazy to even double check. Some of them now have online platforms of their own. They have no training. So we too are guilty. I won't sit here and simply blame politicians alone. No, we too are guilty of some of these things. People not verifying stuff before putting it out there. And we end up misleading our people. Do you know how many times that happens? It happens a lot. So when we point one finger,
4 comes back.
The rest are pointing in our direction. I admit that we too, we have a lot of work to do. But these politicians have muddled the waters in Kano. Look at what is happening. Look today again, we've been told that the Federal High Court has ordered that Sanusi should be evicted from the palace. Before then, there was an order of the court, a Kano High Court, ordering them to evict Aminu Abdussalam from the mini palace in Nasarawa, where he's been staying since he got back. They are trying to use the courts to fight their war for them. They are trying to even up against one another using the courts. Politicians are a big problem in our country. That family, these two guys grew up under the same roof. They grew up under the same roof. Their parents share the same parent, the same father. But see politicians now in Kano, see what they've done to cause. These are not the kind of conflicts that you resolve easily.
So what can be done to resolve this conflict?
These are not the kind of conflicts. You see, one emir may eventually, out of the two emirs, one may eventually lose the battle.
Right.
Either through the courts or no. But you can see that there's a determination to say, no, you can't just do this and think you can get away with it. Because people are asking that, so does it mean now, in fact, somebody made a joke that, does it mean now that if a governor is coming, he will put his picture on his campaign poster, he will put the picture of his deputy, he will put the picture of the emir that he wants to take over when he becomes governor. So now say, Kano. I mean, it's such a shameful thing going on in Kano. 2 emirs. And who is to blame? Politicians. This whole thing is all politics that people are playing. It's all politics. The people who brought Sanusi, they have a history of not liking him. They have a history of hatred for him. They have a history of even demanding that he should be fired where Sanusi used to work. Sanusi is probably watching me. He knows I'm saying the truth. Where I used to work at UBA, they said, sack him. But today it's convenient to use him for politics. And at the end of the day, you are embarrassing the people of Kano. Now, this deputy governor has taken back what he said. But how about some other things that politicians say is after they said it that they now say that it does not make sense? The governor said, a judge gave an order when he was not in Nigeria. The rules of the court permit him to do that. You have not checked. The rules of the court permit a judge to give an order virtually. The guidelines that the NJC issued in 2020 permit judges in critical situations, situations that need urgency, to give order virtually. You don't have to be physically present in your court. Come on. And the governor will come out and make it look like this has never happened. Even this judge, when he was serving, that same Justice Lima, when he was serving in Lagos, he gave judgments virtually. How about that? May 7, he gave judgment virtually. May 7 in this state. You know, he convicted the surgeon, the plastic surgeon, that the surgery went wrong. He convicted the surgeon virtually. Did anybody raise an alarm? Once politics is involved, you start hearing people say all kinds of things. Nothing says a judge cannot give a judgment if it's not present in his court. Within Nigeria, if it's not, it may not be in his court, he can give judgment. Outside Nigeria, if he's attending a conference, an international conference, he can give an order from where he is. The rules of the court permit that. Well, we continue to mislead Nigerians, make it look like it's never done. Abba.
Labisi, your position on this matter, even as we are hopeful that this impasse, happening in Kano, sees the end of the day. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, for me, everything is politics. I don't think it has to do with the people of Kano, and I don't see the people of Kano benefiting in any way from the tussle that is going on right now. Like you rightly mentioned, the people involved there are cousins, and they both have their own supporters. And I also spoke about this issue yesterday, and for me, the stronger power is likely to have its way in this whole thing. But one thing that I also noticed, which for me is positive, is the fact that up till now, we've not recorded any case of bloodshedding. And that is very, very positive. Because before now, the fear was people will go on the streets and they begin to fight themselves and kill themselves. So I guess even the people themselves are probably becoming wiser.
Yes.
And they also know that they don't have to...
Is food.
Yes, they don't want to kill themselves over anybody. So I think that is positive enough. And I believe that with time, they will sort themselves out. I don't think it's something that we should waste our time on. They know themselves. They will settle themselves.
Indeed, let's hope for the end on this matter in Kano. Well, let's quickly go on a very quick break. You're still on to Journalist Hangout. We'll have more discussions coming your way in just a moment. Stay with us. You're still on to Journalist Hangout. But before we move on to our next topic, Babajide, let's quickly have your final thoughts on this issue happening in Kano. I was asking earlier on, what do you think will be the best way to resolve the conflict right now in the state?
You see, this matter, we have to be very careful, because this is the first time. Usually when a king is removed, they get banished to a distant community so that his presence will not cause commotion in the state. When Sanusi was removed and banished to Nasarawa State also, he went to court. And the same Federal High Court that people are abusing now gave judgment in favor of Sanusi that it's an infringement on his rights to say that he should be banished to a particular locality. And That's what enables Sanusi to be moving from point to point, giving speeches here and there because he enjoys giving speeches a lot. It's more like
an orator,
an all-purpose analyst.
Okay, right.
You know, you will go give talk on economy, you can talk on virtually everything. I think there's a greater talent there that many of us take for granted. If he had not won that case, he would have been holed up in Toto, a place called Toto in Nasarawa State. You know, just there. He cannot move out of the place and all that. You know. That law, that judgment, that order of the court stopped them from pinning him down, pinning him to a location. With that kind of judgment and a precedent set, if you remove an emir in Kano, for example, you cannot say he cannot move around. If he likes, he can visit his friends in Lagos. He can even come to Kano. You know? Yes, a decision has not been reached on this matter, but it would have been more ideal if the banished emir did not come to Kano. Having come to Kano, he has his supporters. And if anybody tries to remove him from where he is, it will bring consequences. So they should not even, all of those judgments saying, oh, remove this person forcibly. I mean, what kind of judgment are you giving? In both cases, the High Court in Kano saying they should remove Aminu Abdussalam from the palace, don't they weigh the consequences and the possibility of a burst of violence in carrying out such a judgment or another? And by the same token, they also gave another court, a federal high court this time, because those courts now they are of concurrent jurisdiction, so no one is superior to the other. Once you are confronted by that kind of situation, it's only a superior court that can give us a tiebreaker. So maybe an appeal court now, if an appeal court now rules that one superior to both courts of coordinate jurisdiction, it means that that is the order that has to now be enforced. The way it is now is a stalemate. A federal high court has given an order that Sanusi should be sent packing from the palace. A Kano High Court had also given an order earlier that they should remove Aminu Abdussalam from the mini palace in Nasarawa where he was, or where he's been since he came into town. So the matter has to be handled with utmost care. Even if the courts will still have the final say on this matter, I still believe that leaders of thought, those who genuinely want the peace of Kano, they have to come together and say, this is the way to go. This is what we need to do. It's not all matters that courts resolve. This is a family affair. Yes, politicians have muddled the waters. They've created the problem. I know that in their hearts, they know even they are confused now because they didn't see this coming. Nobody saw it coming that Aminu Abdussalam will come into Kano. And he was brought into Kano. And indeed, there is a smaller palace where they put him. Yes, those palaces are far apart. You know, one is even closer to Government House than that is where Aminu Abdussalam is. It's closer to Government House. You know, the other one is in the heart of town. Now, this is a real stalemate. It requires utmost wisdom to resolve this. And in my view, it's not the courts. We've seen people, I've seen emirs who went to court, they won in court, but they couldn't claim their seats. Yes, some emirs, but...
So it's beyond the courts, definitely involved.
I believe that there has to be We have people, big people, people who have wisdom, elders that are untainted, that have integrity, that people respect. They should be able to come in. The Kano matter is an embarrassment. As somebody who worked in Kano for about 7 years, my heart is still
attached.
I feel very bad about what has happened. But I blame the politicians. I know this is the way they are. But sometimes you won't expect that politicians can go that far. It's ridiculous.
And let's hope that there will be a final resolution to this situation in Kano. Well, let's really move on to our next issue of discussion, where as far as politics is concerned, the ability to connect with key stakeholders is a hallmark of leadership. In a bid to chart a new course for development in the North Central Zone, governors and leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress held a high-powered zonal meeting to discuss issues affecting the growth of the party. At the meeting in Lafia, Nasarawa State capital, the leaders drummed support for the creation of North Central Development Commission, which will address key issues like infrastructure deficits, insecurity, and other violent crimes that have limited agriculture production in the region. Let's share the story by TVC News' Godwin Agwam with you.
It's the first time since the beginning of the current political dispensation that leaders of the APC in the North Central will be converging, and this is taking place in Lafia, the capital of Nasarawa State. President Bola Tinubu is represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Governors of the region, senators, ministers are also in attendance, and the national chairman of the party is a special guest here. Leaders of the region are pushing for a common front and seeking for better reward system for their contributions to the party.
Our challenges can be solved. Most of our challenges can be solved by setting up the North Central Development Commission, where we can challenge all our challenges. All our challenges of investments, solid minerals, infrastructural deficit, healthcare, human capital development issues. We've had a huge discussion on this and have decided that we'll push this forward and make sure that hopefully this year we'll get the North Central Development Commission passed by the National Assembly.
Once we truly work united from the inside of our hearts and the outside, then in reality we will be able to get more for our own people.
Our region is supposed to be the luckiest or the richest in Nigeria. We have the heaviest deposit of mineral resources. Our land is generally arable, and we have massive water bodies to drive irrigation, transportation, and blue economy. We have no reason not to take the lead in the New Hope agenda of Mr. President.
All our neighbors are so infested with the insecurities. It is something no single state can fight on her own. But when we put our heads together already, we will defeat the monster.
President Bola Tinubu and the national chairman assured the region that their contributions to the party will not go unnoticed and will be duly rewarded.
At the end of the day, North Central will continue to stand tall within the APC and within the affairs of our country.
Another reform that we have introduced is the e-registration of our members in order to have an accurate data of our party. Business is not as usual. Election of nowadays is scientific. It has to be planned. Therefore, e-registration will give us an accurate number of our party members in the country.
Other party stalwarts are confident that with unity of purpose, the party will continue to weather any storm and achieve its goals.
To have a common unity of purpose, to work together for the development of the party, to deliver the party, and to also open room for other people to come in. By the time they see that we have a level playing ground, justice, fairness, and equity within the party members and the supporters, you see that we have a lot of massive supporters.
The meeting had a large turnout of party members and leaders as it seeks to build a strong bond of fellowship in the region. Godwin Agwam, TVC News, Lafia.
Labisi, let me bring you in on this matter because this is discussions we've been talking about the North Central, or will I say the Northeast in general. Now they've come together to find the way to resolve the peculiar challenge, if I would say, about their region. What are your thoughts, first off, on this arrangements from leaders of the party?
I think it's a good development for the region to come together to discuss their peculiar challenges. They talk about insecurity, they talk about infrastructural deficits, and of course, when you bring in the politics aspect of it, they talk about reward system for their loyalty, which isn't
out of place.
Out of place, yeah. When you look at that region, for example, you know that we have issues with insecurity, and that region also is kind of centralized. That is why they call it North Central. It's like central of Nigeria is with Middle. And activities there is important. They are important to the overall growth of the country. And I also think in that area too, they produce lots of food in that region. And they also have peculiar challenge with flooding and such that I think there was a particular bad one that happened in 2022, which they say they are still battling from. And, you know, they have this river
basin.
In that area. And there were cases in the past that once that place is overflooded, it blocks people even from getting to Abuja and other parts of the northern parts of the country. So I think it's good to talk about such problems. And if you bring it back home to insecurity, just last week or 2 weeks ago, students of the State University in Kogi, they were attacked, even though some of them were rescued, but some were still killed. Yeah, so that which is a serious problem. And we've also had cases of passengers being kidnapped and different kinds of challenges, really. So I think it's a step in the right direction for them to bring their problems to the public arena and to actually seek the intervention of the federal government in tackling some of these challenges. So I think they've done well in that regard. I think also there was a time that Southwest governors were doing that. They even went beyond party affiliation. I think about 4, 5, 7 years ago, can't remember. I know that Ekiti State governor was in the PDP then, but these Southwest governors, they met in Oyo State at that time to talk about their own
germane issues.
Yes, so I think it's something that we should encourage, because if we are able to actually get development at the regional level, maybe these calls and yearnings for all this restructuring, yes, we bring them down, because what we are really interested in is development at that regional level. So if we can work more on this kind of arrangements and we bring it to practicality,
right,
not just having a talk show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it will all go well for the entire development.
I wanted to go on that, because we've had a lot of this BKO in terms of, having people to come, sit down, talk, and we don't have any concrete action coming out of it. But how optimistic are you about this arrangements from the North Central? Do you see anything promising here? Let it not just be like, oh, we just come talk and then back to
I think this is the first time that key figures from the North Central within the APC are coming together. They must have come together because they feel shortchanged. You know, the zone wanted to produce the House of Rep Speaker because it felt that it was due for it. It didn't get it. The zone wanted to produce the chairman of APC, national chairman of APC. He also didn't get it. They've been unhappy since then, and they just felt, okay, let us come together. Now we are seeing governors at the meeting, big figures within the party, including the former national chairman of the APC, Abdullah Adamu. He was also president. So it's very significant. And I looked at some of the demands that they made. It's looking, this one, these demands are even beyond court. So these demands cut across party lines. For example, their desire to have the Ajaokuta Steel Company resuscitated. This is a national demand. This one, you can't even bring this under IPC. There is no reason in the world for us to have Ajaokuta not working. The day I visited the place and I saw weeds growing as tall as a 2-story building, and you know that, yes, we had misbehaved. Successive governments misbehaved to the point of letting that steel company rot away like that. And we are importing steel. When we can actually make a lot of money from what we have in Ajaokuta. It's a very big place. Very, very big. Now, can this government do something? Maybe. They also demanded for the North Central Development Commission. We have that with Niger Delta. We have that with North East Development Commission. The Northwest Development Commission is on the way. I think they passed a bill to that effect. Now the North Central does not want to be left out. So we also need a North Central Development Commission to address the huge infrastructure deficit that we face, to tackle problems affecting the region, including violent crimes and all that, you know. So that is significant. If the North Central can get a development commission, look at what the NDDC is doing with its budget. We are now seeing NDDC doing bridges, constructing quality roads under the leadership of the current MD of
NDDC.
Yes, of NDDC, Dr. Sam Ogbuku, has seen a completely new NDDC. We used to simply remember them for stealing and all that. Somebody say, don't choke me, you know. Remember? Off your mic. That they popularized that off your mic. Whereas the idea of saying off your mic is even bad English, but it's now people now speak it as if it's good. It's good. So now the people want attention. You can see the representative of the president at the meeting, the SGF, made promises of roads, say Makurdi Enugu Road, Lokoja Road linking the southwest, Akwanga to Jos. You know, he listed some of those projects that are on the way just to make the people happy and have a feeling that, look, you are not forgotten, you are not neglected. And of course, it's a major food basket of our country. Benue State, for example, is the most fertile part of our country. Everyone can see that Benue is the food basket of our country. But Governor Alia talked about how the state is yet to recover from the flood. the floods of 2022 that rendered people homeless and destroyed
lots of
people's crops and all that. So it's, in my view, a way of challenging the government, the ruling government, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to not forget the role that the North Central played in bringing him to power. In Kogi State, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu won convincingly. In Kwara, he won convincingly. He didn't lose a single local government, you know. And Niger too played his part, did very well for the president. So definitely, and of course in Benue, he also won in Benue, even if it's a slim margin, he won in Benue. So they want the president to remember them and help take decisive steps to ensure improvement in the area of infrastructure projects, and then appointment of party members from the zone to key positions. I talked earlier about the fact that they are still unhappy that they didn't get the speaker
another key appointment.
Yes, of the House of Reps, because they felt the Northwest already had Deputy Senate President. Why can't you give North Central the Speaker of the House of Reps? But it didn't work out like that. But they will continue to agitate. And then one of the key issues that they came up with was their condemnation in strong terms of the deliberate refusal of the Governor of Plateau State to enable the inauguration of 7 APC members into the House of Assembly by the fiat of the courts. Those guys gained seats. But between the governor and the speaker, it is suspected that there's a reluctance to comply with the judgment, and they are saying, look, enough is enough. You need to, this governor and the speaker need to be spoken to so that they can allow those APC members in the House of Assembly to take their seats. And last but not the least is the idea of dredging the River Niger. We've been talking about this for so long. You know, if you dredge the River Niger, it will enable big vessels to be able to move across, you know, and deliver
goods.
Yes, to the center of the country.
Right.
And where articulated vehicles can then take them to different parts of the north. So it's important that we dredge the River Niger. And when we do that, well, it will also free also some of the burden that the Lagos ports are carrying. We have to decongest the Lagos ports.
Right.
We can only do that if we decongest, if we decide to dredge some of the ports that we have. We have more than 10 ports just wasting away. If we can decongest, dredge those ports
River Niger,
so that they can, big vessels
can go through.
We will have, will benefit from it, and there will be greater efficiency, because everyone knows that in terms of port efficiency, we are not there. A lot of people prefer to send their goods to neighboring countries. Neighboring countries, because the bureaucracy here and unnecessary delay, all those bottlenecks. So I wish them Godspeed. High-powered meeting, and hopefully they will do a lot more of these meetings, so that their demands
are fully met.
Yes.
Labisi, your final thoughts on this, and what implementation strategies now would you prefer to ensure that these propositions see the light of day?
Well, I think definitely they will have to meet more than this for what they are demanding for to be executed, because it's a whole lot, as he has pointed them out. And because the region is not the only region in Nigeria, there are so many other regions also, or many other states also seeking attention one way or the other. So they will need to meet more often to appraise whatever they've been able to achieve, and also continue to make case for themselves, because they need the president's attention, and they also need the federal government's attention as a whole. And I want to believe that, I also think that some of the things they've asked for now, the ones that can be done easily, should be done, at least so that it won't just appear as if it's a talk show.
Like which one do you think should be done at the moment?
I think the issue of Ajakuta, for example, should be tackled. I also think that the issue of infrastructural deficiency in terms of flooding, in terms of taking care of dredging and the rest, there are things that are immediate that can be tackled. I think such could be done. They don't have to, you won't complete the project immediately, but let's see the government making moves to actually see to some of these things that will be of national benefit to the entire nation.